Hi, everybody. This is Kathleen Fitzgerald. I'm here with Alana Kyle, and this is Dismantling Morgellons. That's what we decide to call it. And this is going to be the third, episode of a series. And we're just going to try to, again, give you information, personal experience, or what we've gathered. Alana has been doing research on Morgellons for a very long time. So we're going to be talking with her about the different aspects of Morgellons and some treatments. I mean, when I talk about it, I'm like, get overwhelmed. So we know this is a huge issue. So we're just going to try to break it down, and we're just going to hand it over to you, Lena. And thank you for giving everybody your time. You're just so gracious and lovely, and
Thank
I'm
you.
honored to be speaking with you here
Thank
today.
you.
Thank
I'm
you.
honored to be here too. I love talking with you, and you make it so easy. And I have so much information to share. It's kind of hard to break it down and figure out where to start. But um, as people have known, I've been fighting Morgellons most of my life, but I didn't even know about it until 10 years ago. So I had all kinds of ailments throughout my life that I had no idea what it was attributed to, and I was kind of given the runaround, just like most people who have Morgellons. They get the runaround from the doctors. They go to a doctor to try to solve this problem, solve this issue with their bodies. There's a myriad of problems that happen with this in the body, and the doctors just kind of like, oh, you're just having psychosomatic symptoms. You're not really sick. You're not really having.
Breaking up just a little bit, but she'll come back on here. You're breaking up.
The place as far as what I was actually dealing with. And it was this very serious problem, very serious illness. And actually, it's not an illness; it's a poisoning, a toxic overload of nanoparticles. And I've been gathering research, gathering data, gathering everything I could find to understand what it is that Morgellons actually is, because many people attribute it to just a parasite or just Lyme disease, but it's actually way more complicated than that. I mean, think about it this way: if you could solve the issue just by taking a parasite cleanse, then you would have no problem, right? You wouldn't even be sick anymore. But that never really happens. People don't really, I mean, they do solve part of the problem because the parasites are definitely a part of the problem. They're actually GMO parasites, not actual parasites. They're sort of made up with the matrix of these various technologies. The nanotechnology you can create a GMO bug with that. So there's definitely elements of this that are parasitic. That's why, like, things like ivermectin and fenbid might help for the short term. But there's other issues because we have heavy metal toxicity with this. So that is something that people need to be aware of. And that's why I'm talking about the real issue, which is this hydrogel. Morgellons is a infestation of this hydrogel, and it's not just hydrogel like that we've known of for 50 years, like say like your contact lenses are made of hydrogel, and say like diapers are made with hydrogel. Used to eat it like Jello, right? But what they did is they added all kinds of things to the mix to hydrogel to create a formula which would then be able to be used for a myriad of different technological advances across the board. And that is what we're dealing with in our bodies. So I wanted to read this thing to you that I just found recently, and it's a paper written about hydrogel that kind of explains some of the basics here that we're dealing with. This paper is actually available on my EMF Blocking Hats group. It's posted there, and along with a really interesting diagram that shows kind of the different applications of hydrogel. The souped up version, the smart version, smart hydrogel, you could call it. So I want to start with that because this is sort of the broad the broad issue we're dealing with, and then I'll narrow it down to my personal experience and the various solutions, because we have many, many, many solutions. And it can really change the game if you get on board with some of the treatments that we've come up with. So let me just read a little bit of this to you. It's multifunctional. Oh, by the way, it was posted first in Morgellons in Open Forum by Pete Ramon, and this blew me away. I was like, this is exactly the paper I've been looking for. It's called Multifunctional Magnetic Hydrogel, Design Strategies and Applications. And this was published in May 2021. And it says, hydrogel is one of the hottest biomaterials in recent years, especially magnetic hydrogels. They're called MHS. Prepared by combining unique magnetic nanoparticles, which are quantum dots, with hydrogels have attracted wide attention due to their excellent biocompatibility, mechanical properties, absorbability, and rich magnetic properties. They're used for magnetic resonance imaging and intelligent response, etc. Then it goes on to say some of the other properties of the MHS, which is the hydrogel, magnetic hydrogel, they call it. And it says they include mechanical properties, absorption, magnetocaloric effect, magnetic resonance imaging, intelligent response, and biocompatibility. And they're using this for a myriad of things in current day technology and biomedicines. And so it is a real thing. We're not just making this up. This is actual fact that they have created this very multi-dimensional, I call it a bioweapon, and it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. And unfortunately, right now, it's broadly being used for very nefarious purposes. So it says here that the MNPs endow hydrogels with remote control characteristics. That's the, I'm sorry, the MNP is the I think that's they're thinking of that as the particles, the nanoparticles that they added to make it smart, right? They're using it for remotely controllable characteristics, which can be used in drug delivery, used in magnetic thermal drive, tissue image enhancement, absorption, and stimulus response, which have broad applications for soft robots. So it's basically synthetic tissue and synthetic technology. I think they're trying to create hybrid humans. So we're synthetic humans, and actually Celeste Long has a whole series about it.
So is it like plastic, Elena?
It's creating a transhuman characteristic. So they're able to control the human being, and it's become so we're not just human, we're actually like a robot / human. So we're synthetic instead of natural. So we have synthetic skin, synthetic blood, synthetic hair. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on, how it creates these synthetic properties in our own bodies. That's what I've experienced. And that's what a lot of
Can you tell when people are, you know, getting kind of taken over by the system?
Yeah, you can tell. There's a lot of different ways you can tell. What I've noticed a lot is the skin becomes sort of rubbery and like plastic, like polymery and dead. Like there's no color. It's sort of like there's no, you don't see the life anymore. It's kind of just dull. And so I'll notice that on my skin, you know, that my skin gets very dull when there's like a lot of this stuff building up. And then I will remove it and I will get back to my normal skin. So it is something you can see for sure. And then you can also see other things like maybe changes of behavior in people, because this actually affects the brain quite a bit. There's like changes of personality at times, changes of behavior. I mean, I'm sure we'll find all kinds of ways that we can spot it, but not to say that we would be judging anybody. It's just that we're noticing how this stuff impacts people.
And the reason why I
Awesome.
asked you if it was plastic is because when people are experiencing this stuff coming out of the skin, it just really looks like plastic. It feels like plastic. There's plastic plugs. There's different types of kind of forms of
Well,
it.
it's made
There's
of polymer.
hydrogels.
It's made of polymer. Yeah, there's a polymer element to it, so that's the basis of it.
So inside this goo, this gelatin or whatever form it's in, it's housing the computer components, right? The quantum dots and the stuff that's gathering or sending information. And but you can't really see
It
it.
can be remote. It can be remote controlled. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But okay, yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
and
continue.
it goes, and it grows actually. So it grows throughout the body like a fungus. So that's where you end up with a problem. Is because it sort of takes over your central nervous system. So that can cause a lot of really strange ailments and strange symptoms. So I wanted to point out, a lot of times people don't realize they have this in them. The symptoms could be subtle or they could be really not subtle. Like you could end up with sepsis at some point and be in the hospital and your liver is failing. And that could be because of this hydrogel. So like, it could be, like I said, there's just such a range of things that this can affect in your body. For me, it affected every system in my body. And it almost took me out a couple of times. Um, I I didn't know what I was dealing with for many years. I really didn't until I met certain people who actually had some of the answers, and I started to go from there with it. When I found out about hydrogel through Celeste Salam, it really opened my eyes to. It made sense about everything because all these different various manifestations of it, they all could fit into the same category of hydrogel, and it made so much sense
Yeah,
because it
you've
was.
been sounding the alarm on hydrogel for a long time. I learned it from you. Then I continued to research it, and then just finding samples personally in different, areas, just through the research, and then, making me want to become kind of this investigator too. It's been pretty inspiring. I think there are a lot of us here too, in this community, or and look to you for a lot of answers. So please continue. And again, we're very excited to be here on the show and talking about this because this is important stuff. People need to know this is, what's causing a lot of the problems. Maybe it's not skin cancer. Maybe it's not skin cancer. Maybe it's hydrogel. We don't know. We're not telling you it's one thing or another. This is not medical advice. This is just as a discussion on Morgellons and hydrogel and different things. And if you have an emergency, to call 911. And God bless you. All right.
Thank you.
Set a disclaimer at the
Yeah,
end.
I definitely, I'm not an expert, okay? I'm not a scientist. I am still learning all about these things. But the difference with me is that I'm passionate about it. And I've taken probably about 10,000 photos of all of the evidence of all of it coming through my body. And I've also collected photos from other Morgellons sufferers who had very similar, if not exact, items coming out of their bodies. So I can say for a fact that this is not just me having these symptoms. It goes across many countries, many thousands of people. There's people on the West Coast, on the East Coast, having the exact same experience as me. And I can tell you it can get pretty bad if you don't treat it. So it's really important to do a detox program. And so we have several overlapping protocols that are safe, that are natural, that are inexpensive. And I can attest that it has changed my life to be able to use those protocols um, to raise my quality of life so greatly. Otherwise, I would be incapacitated. I would be debilitated or dead. So there is definitely a push for me to help people detox from this. And I know that most, I'm 100% sure that I am some kind of human experiment because I've been experimented on since I was a baby. I've had a lot of examples of it, but definitely the things that have come out of my body are just something that is just a whole nother level of technology that no one's ever seen. And the times I've tried to talk to people about it, like in my environment, they can't even comprehend that this stuff is coming out of my body, and they have no idea what they're looking at. And so they get kind of the deer in headlights look. So so it's kind of hard to talk about. You don't really want to talk about it in mainstream circles. You want to talk about it in these groups that are safe, where there's other people that are looking at the same things, and can acknowledge that, no, you're not crazy, you are experiencing this, and all the things are the same. So so I wanted to show some of the things about hydrogel so you can kind of understand what to look for, because when it can be in different forms, so it's all the same, but you see it in different forms, like like say you look at water, well, it can become ice. It's a different form, but is it still water? Yeah, it's still water. You know what I'm saying? So you've got all these different ways to look at it, because it can appear differently. So you can see it as a liquid coming out, just a wet liquid just flowing out, and it's like just clear, or it could
Yes,
have a little bit of a yellow tinge, or
yes,
you
I've
could see,
experienced that. Yeah.
yeah, and you could see it as plastic strips, like these plasticky kind of wormy strips. I mean, there's like these different ways to look at it. I have all kinds of pictures to show some of the different variations of them, but let me see if I can find the one I want. There is also like this sort of matrix layer that you could find growing on your
Hold
skin.
it still. Just hold it real still for a sec. There you go. Yeah, we can
Yeah,
see it. That's
this
good.
is a layer of hydrogel that I peeled off my face, and there would be maybe like 20 layers just like this, like one on top of the other on top of the other. And when you melt it off, you can actually peel it off like in strips, like this. I mean, this could be, strip like this big on your face, just like, and I have a video showing that, if anybody's interested. But then it could be also, well, this is more like when it hardens and it becomes into this sort of sharp edged stuff. And this actually is graphene mixed into a hydrogel base, and it can harden like glass. And you've seen that too. You've seen these things harden like glass or like rocks. Very, very sharp and hard. They can be rocky at times, or they could be flat like this. So there's different ways to see it. And I want to also show a sore that has, oh, here's one. Okay, sometimes it comes with fibers attached. So then you end up with this. See that? See the fibers? They're
Yes, and
blue.
it's blue. And so does that correlate with the different type of metal that it's using? Is that correct?
Actually, yeah, I think what it is so mostly the fibers, okay, the fibers are created like hollow tubes, okay? They're graphene nano tubes. That's what they're called in the technology world. And then they become colorful when they suck up quantum dots. And quantum dots have neon colors. And the quantum dots have different sizes. So a blue one has a different size than a red one as far as the quantum dot goes, and that's what makes the color. So they actually suck up all these quantum dots, and then you end up with these neon fibers. So I've seen every color of fiber imaginable, every color coming out, and sometimes they're all mixed together, like in like a bunch of different colored ones. So this is one example of like a hardened piece of hydrogel. It looks kind of rocky.
Hold it a little closer and hold it up and still. Okay.
They can be sharp, they can be
Wow.
edged. And so that stuff coming out of your skin, it hurts really bad. And the reason why it hurts, it's more than just like say if you had a rock inside of you and it was coming out. It hurts more than that, because there's actually this technology attached, and the technology is electrical, and it has radiation attached as well. So it's like when you get these sores and this stuff coming out of you, it ends up like a burn. It feels like a radiation burn. and it has so much pain attached. It's like the most unbelievable pain. It's indescribable, especially if you have a lot of it. And I've had instances when I had large areas of this, which I'm going to show you now. I had a large area of my chest, my entire front of my chest, that was coming out. And at the time, I was just kind of new to this, so I didn't know know how to treat it or know what to do. And it was the most painful thing. And I had to hide it from people because, people get scared when they see this stuff. They don't know what they're looking at. And
They're
so you
like,
have to,
don't touch it.
they're like, oh no, don't do anything. Go see a doctor, and doctors don't know what they're looking at either.
Some
So you have to
cream, get
be
some
your own
steroid
advocate.
cream.
You have to be your own advocate because you have to be, and that's why we give you tools so that you can do it yourself, because doctors usually end up calling you delusional and, oh, you did that to yourself. You did that. You made that happen. It's like, okay, even talking to a loved one would, they tell you to go see a doctor, and they won't acknowledge that this is something other than what a doctor can treat. The other thing that shows up is like these bumpy areas. This is another way to know if you've got Morgellons. Like, you've got these sort of rocky things coming out of your skin. See, it's sort of like very gritty and rocky looking. And
Yeah,
also,
and then eventually they'll come out and make a ulcer type little sore, like a pimple, but you'll find a real hard bead or something in there. And a lot of people can save those things, and then you get and look under, like a microscope, and you'll see the quantum dots and the different things that it is, but you can't
right,
really
you
tell,
can't really
right?
tell until, yeah, you can't really tell what it is. It might look sort of like little black specks, or it might look like rocky or gritty or something. It would feel kind of gritty, but between your fingers,
Bandy, like
you
there's
won't know
or
what you're looking at.
atropines.
You won't know what you look like. You don't know what you're looking at until you look at them under a microscope, because it might look like fuzz, but this is what it looks like under a microscope. I mean, it's something completely different than what you think. So, look at the
Got little
colors.
hairs growing out of it.
Yeah,
Just
like,
hold it still. There you go. Okay.
see all this. This is
Ah,
a fiber ball that, I mean, there's so much stuff that comes out. Here's another one that this is more rocky. This has more of a hydrogel plus, it's
oh,
things are wrapped around. This is typical of stuff that comes out of these areas that are, I call them nests. So, and then also there's the technological stuff that comes out, and that is a whole nother level. So that is where you realize there is no doubt that this is nanotechnology at all, no doubt. Because how would you ever find this coming out of you? These are hexagons with gold. These are actual gold. And then there's some fibers in here, just kind of layered on top. These are all like stacked on top of each other, these hexagons. And
like beehive.
yeah, well, this is just, it's like, I'm not sure if it's meant to be stacked like that, or if they just kind of came together because they were magnetic.
Right.
Because I
I
never
think they
really took them apart.
gravitate together somehow and
They
fit
gravitate.
together.
Yeah, or they're
Super
grown together. I
circuits.
don't know. But
They're
yeah,
programmed to collect and create. I think
yeah,
they're programmed to do
this
that.
is a nano, it's a nano device that's like sending and receiving, I believe. But Candy Nelson found the exact same one, and she lives on clear across the coast. She found the exact same thing. I have a picture
Wow.
somewhere of it, and
See, that's the amazing part, is that these samples are coming from people that you know and yourself, and then you're looking at them separately, finding the same structures in each other.
and
In
I think that I feel like, because I have tried particular things for the healing aspect of this, the treatments. I've been able to, and also because I'm looking, I've been able to really delve into the actual what is coming out of my body. But a lot of people just do treatments and they don't really spend the time, because it does take extraordinary amounts of time. It takes a microscope. you have to be really diligent about taking pictures and, having like sort of like a scientific, I don't know, like exploration into this to be able to come up with all of this knowledge. But most people, I mean, they see a few things and they don't know what they're looking at and they just throw it away and they don't know.
Yeah, and for people that don't wanna know and don't care, just want the solutions, we keep tracking us on this series, Dismantling Morgellons is what we just got decided to call it, and because we'll get to lots of solutions, and we're just trying to explain it because people are gonna have unexplained sores, they're not knowing how to heal them because they don't heal very well. If you're not careful, it can get really painful, and so there's just different ways, that I've been finding working with others and, myself that we can share too. And um,
Yeah, and
it's
ask questions. Don't be
but
afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to bring this stuff forward and go, what do you think this is? Or what do I have this sore and what do you think about it or whatever? Like, I mean, we're all here to help. So we definitely can understand and we can relate. And I know it's scary to bring that stuff forward because you're like, oh, no, this must be weird or it's weird.
people think I'm weak. I don't want to share my personal struggles. No one should know I'm having a hard time because I don't want anyone to know I'm weak, those kinds
Yeah,
of
it's
things.
a humiliating thing to have actually, because again, like you're like, why me? You're like, why me? I no one else can understand this. So how, it sort of makes you feel really bad, like there must be something wrong with me. But the thing is it's not there's nothing wrong with you because actually this is across the board. Everyone in the world is exposed to this.
So
So
let's go with the mental aspect. Now you were saying that there's emotional stuff tied to when the stuff's coming out, when you're detoxing from it, when you're dismantling it or pulling it out of your body or whatever, or soaking it out. Can you explain a little bit about that to
definitely,
us?
I think there's definitely a lot of emotional and spiritual aspects to this because every time a nest would start to form and appear on the surface of my skin, I would feel this intense anxiety attached to it. I would feel an emotional breakdown. I would cry a lot. I would have like anxiety attacks. And it was almost like a trigger, like, oh, I guess there's a nest coming out because I can feel,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
And and then when you're doing it, when you're dealing with the nest, first of all, you have to tell yourself, I'm doing this because I love myself. And that's not easy for a lot of people. They don't want to treat themselves because they don't love themselves and they don't want to take the time away from their family or their whatever they're doing. And it does take a huge amount of time to focus on these areas where you have a nest or, some kind of problem, like your eyes, your nose, whatever it is at the time, or it might be multiple things that you have to deal with at one time. And so you have to take the time to actually treat it and deal with it. And that's sort of hard on its own and then to know exactly how to do that. Well, we try to make our protocols either free or cheap, simple, you know, anybody can learn how to do it in 5 minutes. Nothing is complicated. You don't have to know everything about everything. You can just go ahead and try it because everything we've done is really safe. There's nothing that is going to like knock you on your ass or anything like that. So, so that, we try to make it so it's so easy for somebody to pick this up and do these protocols like the baths or the borax treatments or the hats or the quantum energy clearing. These things are available for everyone. But then the idea is that you get on a program and then you stick with it and then you'll see results very quickly, like within weeks. You'll see some results and it'll be very exciting. So that kind of builds on itself. Like you see that you're healing and you want to do more, you know. And I mean, at first it's a little daunting because you're seeing all this really strange stuff come out of you and your skin starts to react in weird ways that you probably never knew. So anyway, it's a hard thing to get on to a program, but once you do, I think you'll find that it's actually quite rewarding, you know, I mean, and emotionally, like I'd be working on an area and I would give myself a pat on the back every time something would come out. You know, some big thing, like big, huge fiber ball would come out. I'd be like, "Good job, Elena. You did that," you know? And then it felt good. It felt like I was really taking care of myself, and it's a really good feeling, you know? And then I would take the samples that were really unusual, and I would put them on plastic packing tape and save them for a time when I could do all of the microscopic work, because it's in a different room, and so I do that in another time and take pictures and then share them, and that's how I've been doing it for 10 years. So
Yeah, yeah, some of your stuff's been pretty amazing. Well, we've got about, let's say, good 7, 8 minutes to talk about some solutions maybe. How's that sound?
okay,
Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah, that
you
sounds
know
great.
okay, so when you know there's something coming on and you get anxiety, let's start there, and then we can continue on the next segment, but when you start getting anxiety, what's the first thing that you do to take care of yourself so you don't go off the deep end and, like, have a rampage meltdown?
Yeah, well, I I have had so many of these instances, so many. If there's going to be a moment of freak out for sure, like, oh no, here it comes again. You know, like you're getting attacked, or you're gonna have to deal with this thing, this area. It could be small, it could be, really small, or it could be big, it could be an entire part of your body. And the first thing to do is to start treating it with these elements that will actually melt the hydrogel portion of it, and that allows the matrix to sort of be unclogged, and then other things will start flowing out of that area, and you just rub it with your fingertips. You don't even have to use anything harsh or I mean, scrubbing.
Coconut
Like
oil I found is pretty, easy, and it actually does some good stuff. Coconut oil if it's super sore, anything.
there will be pain, so that's kind of a scary part of it, is like, since it's so painful at first, because there's so much stuff in there that is causing the pain. It'll feel like you just don't want to touch it, because you're like, oh, it hurts too bad. Well, you need to just gently massage it first, and then vigorously massage as it gets going. But the idea is to put the elements on these products that we use that really help melt the hydrogel complex.
So let me hold on. So what you're saying that when you feel anxiety, the best thing to do is just try to massage it open and get that thing flowing. Don't pick at if it's too painful, but just like when you have anxiety, yes, you can take tea and do baths and that kind of sedate yourself, whatever you need to do to stay calm, go on a field trip by yourself, whatever. But getting those sensors and the radiation and stuff out as soon as you can, right? It seems to be what's
Well,
gonna relieve the
for me,
anxiety
that
the
was
most.
how I dealt with it, because I knew that the faster I could get this out, the better off I'd be. I don't want to wait for that, but like putting my hat on actually really calms me. So whenever I'm really stressed and anxious, I put my hat on, and
That's me
it's
too. If I put my
really
hat on,
helpful.
if I got a headache and I don't feel well. Also, I was wondering, there's a correlation between, like, I think when the hurricane hit, and then there was a earthquake over here in Oregon, and then a stressful event, kind of a collaboration of things. Can that trigger all of that to trigger this kind of
Yeah, for
load?
sure. I know that it's all connected. I do. And I mean, for sure, because see, the hydrogel has this property of changing and growing and becoming more intense, and creating more symptoms with certain outside stimulus. So like we're talking, frequencies, which, let's be honest, that's just constant, right? The frequencies. And then when there's an attack on a bigger scale, like like for example, I think the hurricanes were caused by pulsing electronics, and they've shown that there's absolutely a correlation between next what do they call it? Next rad radar system
Yeah, the
off the
Doppler
coast.
NexRad radar
Right.
system.
So
Yeah.
you could see it. It's doing this stuff and then creating these hurricanes. And so there's definitely this correlation between, because that's high intensity frequencies. So, and I felt that here in California as well. I felt these pulses of electricity as there was a storm coming through, so I definitely think there's that element to it. But then there, stress can cause an outbreak. Any kind of trauma, any kind of
Triggers.
it's because hydrogel is affected by pH. So your pH changes whenever you're in a
And
stressful.
and all of this stuff
That stuff for
that
sure.
they're doing into the arms, I know is triggering a lot of it too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely part of it. I mean, it's all connected, guys. So just think about it. Think about it as like it's all connected. So whatever is happening out there is happening to you as well. And I mean, there's only so much you can do about that, but you can do something about yourself and your body and you taking control of your peace of mind. So that is why doing these treatments has been sort of life-saving, because then you can affect it. So like you could have a sore that looks like cancer, but I know 100% you can clear that thing, get all the crap out and heal. 100% heal.
Gosh, I believe that too. Well, let's end there. Let me just wrap
Okay.
this up briefly and say that we're with Alana Kyle here, and you can find her at EMF Blocking Hats by Elena on Facebook. And then the other two groups are
Quantum.
the Quantum Energy Healing Protocol with Candy Griffin Vanderwalker.
It's quantum energy clearing protocol.
Sorry, thank you. Quantum Energy Clearing.
Yeah.
And then Morgellons Open Forum.
Morgellons and Open Forum. Yes.
Okay, right. And so you can find these ladies there. And this is a fascinating conversation. We're going to come back with segment 4, and we're going to specifically talk about some solutions. So that will be like a whole nother, 25 minutes in itself. So again, this is Kathleen Fitzgerald with Alana Kyle, Dismantling Morgellons. And we'll see you next time around the horn.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye
See you
now.
later.